All right, so I'm out of the boat, and today I am going to do something that I've been meaning to do for a very long time. I'm going to determine the neutral position of my jib cars for each sail. And so when you talk about the neutral position, basically it's the starting point. And the way you determine that is you draw a line from the middle of the luff of your sail diagonally down through the clew and then to the jib car track. And where that imaginary line hits the jib car track is your neutral position or starting point. And in theory, that's the point where, with ideal winds and relatively flat water, that your sail will be perfectly set. And so if you're overpowered, then you'd have to adjust it. If you're underpowered, you would have to adjust it. But that's basically the starting point for your jib car, and that's how you determine where it is. And there's a lot of ways to do this. You could take a photo of your sail set up on the boat. You could kind of eyeball it just looking at it from the dock or whatever. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to measure the center point on each sail. I'm going to tape a line onto that position, and then I'm going to run the line down through the clew, basically spread out the sail, run the line through the clew and then down to the jib car, and then mark the jib car positions for each of my sails. So now I know that in kind of ideal wind conditions, that's the starting point. So from the neutral position, you basically move the jib car forward or back depending on the conditions that you're encountering. And of course, you're always looking at your telltales, right? So you want all the telltales all the way up the sail. If you head up or if you bear away, that they all do the same thing at the same time. And so as far as adjustments, if there's more wind, you might want to flatten the foot of your sail or increase your twist, and you do that by moving the jib car back. So what that does is it changes the angle of how the jib sheet is pulling on the clew. And so by moving it back, that makes the angle kind of more horizontal, and so it puts more horizontal pressure on the foot. It makes the foot flat and less pressure in the upward angle, in the vertical, so it increases your twist. It puts less tension on the leech of your sail, and so the top of your sail is going to twist out a little bit. So in heavier winds, you move it backward to do that. And then in lighter winds, typically, you're going to move it forward. And moving it forward will give more belly in the foot of the sail, and it'll decrease twist, which may or may not be beneficial in lighter winds. But certainly if you're in a situation where you're maybe fighting waves or chop, you would want more belly in the bottom of your sail, which gives you more power because you're creating a larger camber, a larger airfoil shape. So you get more power out of the sail, and then you're lining up the twist along the sail. And so again, you get a little more power doing it that way. So those are just the ways that you can adjust your jib car to change your sail performance. So to measure this, I'm going to use this blue line and then this electrical tape, and I'm going to tape the end of the line at the midpoint of the luff of the sail and then measure down from there. So this is my 80% jib, and I just fold it in half. And so the halfway point, the middle point of the luff is right here, so I'm going to place my tape on here. So here's how I normally have my 100% working jib set up, with the car pretty much in the middle of the track. But you'll see in a second that that's actually not the neutral position for this sail. Okay, so that's the measured center point of the sail, and then the line is supposed to pass directly through the clew and then maintain a straight line to the jib car. So theoretically, this is my neutral position for this jib, and it is farther forward than I have ever put the jib car. So that's really interesting. Okay, so I finished both the measurements, and in both cases, on both sails, what I found was that if you draw a line from the midpoint of the luff through the clew and then to the point where that line intersects the jib car track, that the theoretical neutral position for both of my sails is with the Jib Cars way far forward. And I'm blown away by that, totally surprised. So does that mean that on this boat, when I'm sailing this boat at this lake, that I'm gonna start setting my Jib Cars all the way forward? No. It's about finding that balance. I think, you know, finding the neutral position, it's a piece of information. It's a consideration, but it's not like, you know, this is the way it has to be done. So it's about, you know, tailtails, it's about twist, leech tension, you know, flattening the bottom, having belly in the bottom, all those kinds of things, and balance, helm balance, and having the boat feel, you know, like it's up to speed, and that it's sailing upright and those kinds of things. And so I do feel like, you know, typically I've used the middle third of my Jib Car track. And so I do feel like that's kind of where my boat likes to be, as far as the Jib Car track and how the head sail performs. But, you know, I'm going to play with it more. I am going to try and pay more attention to the tailtails if I can. And, you know, just go from there. I think, you know, it was a worthwhile exercise, and it's a good piece of information, especially in lighter winds, on, you know, what the ideal point is for those Jib Cars. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, thanks for watching.